It has been a long time coming, 41 years to be precise, since an Indian soared into space. The hatters never explained can only be described as a shocking abdication of collective self-belief. Nations that stop believing in themselves fade into history. But Sudhanshu's liftoff has the potential to change all this. His surge into space has once again given wing to a renewed national quest for advancement and greatness. And viewers, history is repeating itself, only this time superlatively. Nothing epitomized this more than Shubhanshu's uplifting message. From space, he gave a call to his countrymen to take up the challenge of joining the journey to dream big and to push the limits of creativity. He said, "Namaskar, my dear countrymen. What a journey. We are revolving around Earth at the speed of 7.5 kilometers per second. We are back in space once again after 41 years. Tiranga on my shoulders tells me that I am with all of you. I want all of you to be part of this historic journey. Together, let's begin India's human space program. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat," unquote. Listen in, viewers, to this message that he delivered from space.
देशवासियों, what a ride! 40 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना देखिए चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत की ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Not just for 1.4 billion Indians, but most touchingly, Shukla had a special message for his wife, which he made public along with a photo of him bidding her a farewell from behind the plate glass of the quarantine facility. He said to her, quote, "Special thanks to Kamna." That's that photograph, viewers. They're both touching hands to that plate glass. He says, "Special thanks to Kamna for being the wonderful partner that you are. Without you, none of this was possible. But more importantly, none of this would matter," unquote. Shukla's parents couldn't contain their excitement and their pride. They've also waited for this moment, possibly all their lives. Listen in, viewers.
काफी भावुक पल, क्योंकि पिछले 6 बार से देखा किस तरीके से मिशन जो है डिले होते गया। 7वीं बार
अब तैयार है मिशन, अब तो इस बार हो रहा है मिशन। उसके लिए हम लोग जो है मेंटली तैयार हैं पहले से। अब वो टल गया था बाई चांस, कुछ जो भी दिक्कतें थी अब वो जीवाज हो गई हैं और अब आज उनका मिशन जा रहा है, इसलिए हम लोग जो है यहाँ मिशन की लॉन्चिंग देखने आए हैं।
आखिरी बार शुभांशु ने क्या कहा?
आखिरी बार शुभांशु कॉन्फिडेंट थे, मतलब वो बिल्कुल कॉन्फिडेंट थे, हम भी कॉन्फिडेंट हैं बिल्कुल अच्छी तरह, बिल्कुल खुशी से, मतलब जो है इसको जश्न के हिसाब से मना रहे हैं हम लोग। बिल्कुल खुशी से जा रहे हैं, खुशी से आए।
परिवार के लिए काफी गर्व वाला पल है ये।
बहुत अच्छा पर्व है हमारे परिवार, देश प्रदेश सबके लिए गर्व का पर्व है। हमारा बेटा जो है इस मिशन पर जा रहा है और इसके लिए हम जो है बहुत।
माता जी, कितना गर्व वाला दिन है आज?
बहुत बड़ा गर्व है हमारे लिए आज का दिन, जो इतिहास में याद रखा जाएगा।
क्योंकि राकेश शर्मा गए थे पहली बार, आज दूसरी बार शुभम है। शुभम जो जा रहे हैं अंतरिक्ष में रिसर्च करें, शुभांशु रिसर्च करने के लिए।
हाँ, दोबारा शुभांशु ही जा रहे हैं।
आखिरी बार कब बातचीत हुई है?
बात अभी हुई थी, अभी सुबह हुई थी। निकलने के पहले बात किया था हम लोगों से कि मैं निकल रहा हूँ मम्मा। बात करके गए हैं आज।
बात करके गए हैं?
हाँ, आशीर्वाद लेके गए हैं, दही पेड़ा खिलाया, वो खा के गए हैं दूर से।
वही वीडियो कॉल पे खिला दिया दही पेड़ा। इससे पहले कई बार टल भी गया था जाने का, तो आज 7वीं बार है जब वो जा रहे हैं आखिरकार, तो काफी भावुक पल होगा।
भावुक तो खैर है ही, बच्चा जब जाता है कहीं ऐसे मिशन पे तो
बचपन से ही उनको इस तरह से वैज्ञानिक बनना था, रिसर्च करना था?
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं था। वो सब
ऐसा कुछ नहीं था। तो रुचि कब आई? रुचि उनके
एनडीए में जाने।
Shubhanshu Shukla's mission is an important one. The first-hand experience he gains will be needed to help India build its own manned space flight. Every scrap of lived experience is immeasurably more valuable than a line in an instruction manual, viewers. It's this gold dust of first-hand knowledge that convinced the minds at ISRO or ISRO to fund Shukla's ride into space aboard the Axiom Mission rocket. Now, we all know that the Gaganyatri mission is next. The X4 mission to train Gaganyatri astronaut for further ISRO flight. Remember, he's commandeering actually that craft, the X4, all the way to the ISS. And AX4 mission offers practical experience and international exposure, both as a rocket pilot as well as, of course, on board the ISS, and enhances India's capabilities in human space flight planned for 2026. So next year is going to be a massive year for India. While there will be a lot of hard work, Shukla got an important and timely bit of advice from India's first pioneering astronaut, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma. Listen in.
Godspeed and spend as much time as possible to look out of the window. Have a fun time, guys.
Viewers, yes, Group Captain Shubhanshu is a very, very courageous and lucky man, but I think I'm even luckier because I'm getting to speak with deGrasse Tyson. Who doesn't know him in India? He's a household name, viewers. And he's someone who really, really talks up the Indian space program. And that's really why a lot of Indians love you, Mr. Tyson. I want to begin by asking you to cast your gaze across this remarkable achievement. A 41-year-long wait has ended. I was 9 years old when the last Indian astronaut on board a Russian rocket went up to space, to the Mir space station. Now we have an Indian on board a private rocket going up to ISS. Now that is something that is a little unscripted, but it's also a stepping stone to India's own Gaganyatri mission, a manned crewed mission that we want to put out into space a few years from now. So how do you put this into perspective?
So a few things. Thanks for having me. And so, yes, I have talked up the Indian space program multiple times, but I would do that for anybody's space program. So just to be clear, when a country wants to go to space and participate in this great adventure, I think that's a good thing for all of humanity. And yes, is it 40? How many years now? 41 years.
Yeah,
that's way too long. Like, what took you so long? The space station has been up there a very long time. It's an international space station. But what this tells us, it's further evidence of India's progress in space. Just as you introduced the segment, where we can think of this as a stepping stone. We have a native Indian national going to the space station, and that helps not only psychologically but emotionally and financially. It helps pry open opportunities that would follow, including your own mission to space, and that go for it.
Now, it's interesting what took us this long. When I was speaking to the former chairman of the ISRO, which is India's space research organization, he told me we needed to have the next step in place. The last event, which took place, as I said, 41 years ago, was in one-off, isolated, because we didn't have a program that catered to manned flight into space. Now we've got those pieces of the puzzle in place. That is why we have taken our time. It's taken us also a little while to get to the technological level of attempting such a feat. So just to put that into perspective for you, but very importantly, obviously the group captain is going to return with a hoard and a wealth of knowledge, which he is going to be able to impart to the engineers who are planning Gaganyatri. Isn't that a spin-off?
Yeah, I think I see an even bigger picture than that. We know from our own experience here in the United States that when an astronaut goes into space, they become a local hero back home. and we give parades for them. We name schools after them. And so it's bigger than just what expertise can he hand in his baton to the next Indian astronaut. It's what effect will it have on the culture. You saw the people dancing in the streets when India landed at the South Pole of the moon. And I remembered I had to correct some of the news outlets because they were saying India becomes the fourth country to land on the moon. Yes, but India was the first country to land softly at the South Pole. And that's the next frontier on the moon. And so I'd like mentioning firsts when there are firsts to be mentioned. So there's the bigger picture here that can have a big effect on people's morale, emotions, and ultimately the budgets that would enable this.
Budgets that would enable this very important point. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's very important that we situate this conversation in the larger context of other nations also going in for crewed missions to, let's say, the moon and so forth, and perhaps even beyond, if you are to believe Mr. Musk. So how do you see that? Because there's a bit of a gap there is right now. The Indian space program has done very well to do it economically, but there is a gap.
Well, there's a gap. So, for example, China is sort of going at it on their own, and I kind of expected that, really, when they were not invited to be part of the International Space Station when that was first created. When it was first an American space station, then the Soviet Union fell, and we wanted sort of access to their scientists and rocket engineers, and so we opened it up immediately to them, and so that set the landscape on which other countries could then participate. And China was not involved in that. And meanwhile, China's economy was growing significantly over those years. And when you have a growing economy, you have monies that you can siphon off and do other interesting things with it. And that's what China is doing. So in terms of spacefaring nations, yes, there's Russia, United States, European Union, India, China, and I'd like to believe that in the future there'll be a level of cooperation that will make this a human enterprise rather than just one country versus another. And there's something called the Artemis Accord that's been making its way around the world, which is a statement of conduct in space for all spacefaring nations, but also countries would commit to sharing any scientific research or other discoveries that could be useful to the next missions that are planned. If you find a danger, you don't want to hide that. You want others to know so that they can avoid it. It's a broad, very beautiful document, the Artemis Accord. You can Google that. And so I foresee if we are collectively responsible as humans, and the history of humans has not always demonstrated that, but if we are responsible humans going forward, I look forward to a very bright future in space.
That's very important, that we must evolve a sense of cooperation and tech transfer to advance the cause of humanity. Should humanity be thinking of escaping Earth? Is that the cause that we're trying to sort of democratize?
I don't think of it as escaping Earth. Escaping Earth would mean you'd leave Earth and never come back. And there is no place other than Earth in the universe where you can pull that off successfully. So I see it as exploration. The first people to ascend Mount Everest, for example, they were not escaping civilization. They were exploring. The first oceanic voyagers to cross the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific, they were not trying to escape. They were exploring. Yes, there were some escapees, like the Mayflower boat from Europe to the New World. Yes, they were escaping, but they were still on Earth when they got to the destination. When they got off the ship, they could breathe the air, right? And if the ship broke, the trees in the New World were made of wood, just like the ones in Europe. So space is a very different enterprise. And the level of cooperation will be without equal in the history of exploration. The level of cooperation needed will need to be without precedent in this exercise. So now, getting back to your point, there is this talk of terraforming Mars and shipping 1 billion people there, or however many, and then we're a 2-planet species. That makes a good headline for the press. However, the arguments people give is to protect the species in case an asteroid comes or in case there's a killer virus, and I don't find those arguments convincing, because if you have another argument is we might trash Earth, and we trash Earth, then then Earth will become unlivable, and we need Earth 2.0. Okay, so my issue with that is it sounds good, of course, but whatever it takes to terraform Mars and ship 1 billion people there, seems to me it'll be easier to deflect any asteroid that might be headed towards Earth. Just seems to me. And it also seems to me that it'll be easier to fund antiviral research so that we can have a perfect antiviral serum so that there won't be some virus that'll take us out. And so the Earth's solutions seem very capable, seem very within our reach, given how far and distant terraforming Mars would be. And if global warming totally trashes Earth, it seems to me if you have the power of geoengineering to turn Mars into Earth, then you have the power to turn Earth back into Earth. So for me, going to Mars is a matter of exploration, not being driven by we need to be a 2-planet species to protect Homo sapiens.
Let me also ask you this, because you've talked about cooperation, referred to it a 3 times in the interview, but unfortunately the space race is wrapped up in narrow nationalism, isn't it? Everyone is trying to sort of steal a march over the other. How do we get over that? And are these worthwhile pursuits? Getting to the moon, setting up a base on the moon, I don't know, mining the moon, mining asteroids?
Yeah, so I have a couple of replies. I think the history of space exploration was indeed one of nationalistic goals, especially anchored in the United States and Soviet Union's conflicts, the Cold War and the Hot War that we fought in Southeast Asia, of course. However, take a look at Europe. Europe had been fighting itself for centuries. Centuries. One might even say millennia if you go back to Greece. And so now there's the European Union. They're not fighting each other in the group that decided we're not going to fight each other anymore. We're going to cooperate, yet still retain our identity. So you use the word properly for this context. You said we need to evolve. And I think we have evidence that we can evolve. And that's been demonstrated by the European Union. It's been demonstrated by the United States and Russia. Maybe it can happen also with India, Pakistan. There are these hotbeds around the world that we have good evidence that we can overcome them, given what has happened in the past. And you had a follow-up question. What was that?
Now, it was just about the sense of going to new lands.
Is it worth it?
Yep.
Is it worth it? Mm-hmm. So it's not a secret that India is still steeped in poverty for so many of its citizens, and there's surely people who walk among you who will say, why are we spending money in space when we have hunger and poverty here on Earth?
True.
And my reply to that, it's very simple, is before the ISRO spent any money in space at all, before they even existed, India had poverty. Okay? So you can't blame the space program for the poverty, A. B, what space programs do is inspire an entire next generation to think about the STEM fields, the science, technology, engineering, and math. And those are the fields that are the engines of tomorrow's growth economies. So, as you know, India's economy has been growing. And when an economy grows, all the boats rise. Okay? If it doesn't rise for everyone, it's a political problem, not an actual factual problem about the economy. And so it may be the best solution to poverty that anyone has come up with, to have a presence in space that inspires people to want to do more.
Thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. Thank you very much for those uplifting sentiments and putting the future into perspective for some of our viewers who might actually be thinking on a more conservative line, saying, why are we doing all of this when these resources could be diverted? Now you have your answer. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Viewers, yes, there was a momentous move towards going back into space, but today is also another one of those big calendar days. Today is the 50th anniversary of Indira Gandhi's dark dictatorial emergency when opposition leaders vanished into jails, press freedom was strangled, and the constitution, viewers, was trampled underfoot. The Prime Minister, the Union Home Minister, and several others committed to the preservation of Indian constitutionalism have spoken out, resolving to never let the ideals of the Constitution be desecrated by the arbitrary use of executive power again. Prime Minister Modi said today marks 50 years since one of the darkest chapters in India's democratic history, the imposition of the emergency. The people of India mark this day as Samvidhan Hatya Divas. On this day, the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution were set aside. Fundamental rights were suspended. Press freedom was extinguished, and several political leaders, social workers, students, and ordinary citizens were jailed. It was as if the Congress government in power at that time placed democracy under arrest. Very strong words from the Prime Minister, backed up by more sentiments from the Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Listen in, viewers.
जिस 25 साल के युवा ने उस वक्त कांग्रेस पार्टी की प्रधानमंत्री इंदिरा गांधी के तानाशाही विचारों का विरोध किया, आज वही व्यक्ति जिस काम के लिए इमरजेंसी डाली गई थी, परिवारवाद को प्रस्तापित करने के लिए, वो परिवारवाद को आज वही व्यक्ति ने 2014 में पूरे देश से उखाड़ कर फेंक दिया। इंदिरा जी ने, राष्ट्रपति जी ने आज आपातकाल की घोषणा की है, एक वाक्य बोलकर सारे संविधान के स्पिरिट को खत्म करने का काम किया। परंतु पूरी दुनिया अब जानती है राष्ट्र की सुरक्षा को कुछ नहीं हुआ था, उनकी कुर्सी खतरे में थी।
But on this day, when the Congress should ordinarily be expressing regret, it has had the audacity to not only rationalize emergency, viewers, several of its spokespeople have come out and said that there were some things good about it too. But moreover, viewers, it has accused the NDA of imposing a quote undeclared emergency unquote over the last 11 years. Jairam Ramesh, Congress Member of Parliament and spokesperson of the party, has come out and said, quote, the five-fold assault on Indian democracy that has led to the undeclared emergency over 11 years. Five-fold assault. What is he talking about, viewers? Hard to understand. He writes a big letter without actually putting any proof. Just rhetoric. K.C. Venugopal, Congress General Secretary, very close aide of Rahul Gandhi, handpicked by Rahul Gandhi, the closest loyalist of Rahul Gandhi, has come out and said, quote, the remembrance of the 1975 emergency is nothing but a reflection of the BJP's own guilt. India has been witnessing, quote, an undeclared emergency, unquote, for the last 11 years. Viewers, undeclared emergency? Really? Where are the midnight arrests of opposition leaders today? Where is the hammer blow of censorship? Who is beating the judiciary into submission with the gavel of authoritarianism? Where is the constitution being rewritten to place the executive on a pedestal as it was, viewers, under the Congress in 1975? Rhetoric apart, let's subject the Congress claim to the test of facts, the hard facts. And viewers, I always bring you the hard facts so you can get closer to the truth. Viewers, Lok Sabha and Assembly elections under the NDA have seen record high voter turnouts. In 2019, the Lok Sabha turnout was 67.4%, the highest ever in the history of India. 2025 was not far behind. What is the takeaway? The takeaway is very simple. An undeclared emergency wouldn't see enthusiastic public participation in democratic exercises. Just look at Bangladesh, look at Pakistan. Failed states where authoritarianism reigns, people don't feel motivated to come out to vote. Viewers, even in Jammu and Kashmir, people have come out in record numbers to vote. In some of the hardest hit areas of political instability, where alienation is supposed to be rife, even there they came out and voted, viewers. Here's another hard fact. Judiciary is independent in this country, viewers. The Supreme Court has struck down the NDA's pet electoral bond scheme just before the elections. Many people said that that electoral bond scheme was distorting the electoral landscape, leading to the treasury benches, the NDA, getting an untrammeled advantage over the opposition. But even that was done away with by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court provided relief to Rahul Gandhi, restoring his Member of Parliament status. The Supreme Court halted bulldozer justice, ordered the fresh floor tests in Maharashtra and Uttarakhand. In a true emergency, this is the takeaway, viewers, in a true emergency, courts would be paralyzed or compliant, which they're clearly not. If you read history, you will know what happened under Indira Gandhi to the courts, viewers. Hard fact 3. Media criticism of Modi and NDA is abundant and constant. Tonight, viewers, you will hear voices that will vent against the Prime Minister. They will empty out the bile that is within them, viewers, and pour it on the Prime Minister. There's no one stopping these people. In an actual emergency, this would never happen. It would result in a blanket media censorship, which you will now see, viewers, is not quite the case. Here's another hard fact. Protests termed illegal by Supreme Court, like Shaheen Bagh and the farmers' protest, have been allowed to continue by Mr. Modi. In fact, many people have criticized him for being too indulgent of mobocracy, viewers. The takeaway is simple. In an undeclared emergency, protests would have been crushed extrajudicially, viewers. Here's another hard fact. India is a vibrant and varied democracy with non-BJP parties governing over 40% of India's population, including states like West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Punjab, Telangana, Himachal. Good or bad, I can't say, but they are. In an emergency, opposition would be rendered functionally irrelevant, viewers. Here are the hard facts. I'm only giving you the hard facts. I'm testing the Congress's claim of an undeclared emergency against the hard facts. One individual is not concentrating all power. Viewers, like you see in Iran, or you see in Bangladesh, or you see in Pakistan. Unlike, of course, between 2004 and 2014, when NAC files released in the public domain showed Sonia Gandhi was, quote, super prime minister, unquote, during the UPA regime. The takeaway is simple. There's no comparison with today. Parallel Sonia Gandhi oversight significantly undermined authority of Prime Minister's post in the UPA era. There is no one doing that today, viewers. So where's the Congress coming from? Is it perhaps still smarting from repeated electoral defeats? Is it hurling false alarms to cloak its own legacy of authoritarianism? And viewers, its own failures, most importantly. Let's ask that question. Mr. Jain is here with us. None of our panelists tonight need an introduction. Sanjeev Srivastava is here with us, very senior journalist, has lived through tumultuous times, covered them for the BBC with great aplomb, and I've been a colleague of his, and I was proud to be a colleague of his. There's Dr. Suman Raman, a close observer of politics. We may agree to disagree, viewers, but I think taking it too far here by saying there's an undeclared emergency in this country. Mr. Jain, are you covering up for your failures? For the Congress party's indubitable record of not being able to come to power now for almost 3 elections? Is that the tantrum that you're throwing? Blame everybody except for yourself. Blame all the tools at your disposal. Blame all the institutions. Blame the Prime Minister. Blame the EC. Blame the Supreme Court. Blame everybody except for yourself. Is that what's happening? Just asking a simple question. You can respond, sir, at length.
You've asked a very long question. You've stated a long list of hard facts, and I wish to reply to all of them. First of all, you ask, is the Congress trying to run away from its election defeats when they try to raise the issue of undeclared emergency? Let me remind you and all your viewers that it is not the Congress that is raking up the issue of emergency. It is the Prime Minister and his government trying to cover up their follies who are raking up the issue of a 50-year-old emergency, which, by the way, let me make it clear, I don't support it. It was wrong. Congress did also say that. Rahul Gandhi did also say that it should not have been imposed. Let's make that very clear. I'm not sitting here to defend the emergency. But at the same time, we have to look at what happened in 1975 and what has been happening since 2014 till this present day. You talk about that there have been no midnight arrests. Is it not fact that Arvind Kejriwal and Hemant Soren, both sitting chief ministers of their respective states, were arrested without any trial, without a court order, because the ED thought that they have committed a crime, something which the ED has yet not proven in trial courts, and they've been they were incarcerated for months and only got a bail from the Supreme Court while the courts below refused to grant them any relief. You talk about a hammer blow to censorship of the media. Well, you don't need to ask the media to bend and crawl for you when you co-opt the entire media. We can see that across English and Hindi news channels, newspapers, that every particular media channel is essentially trying to chest thump with the government, for the government, against the opposition. Thirdly, you say that the judiciary being beaten with a gavel? If not, then what was the incident about Justice Muralidhar being transferred midnight when he opened an inquiry into the Delhi riots case in 2020? What was the incident about Justice Qureshi not being elevated to the Supreme Court? We all have seen statements from former Supreme Court judges and legal scholars and people in the fraternity that Supreme Court is under a lot of pressure. You have a judgment of the court where the judges did not deem it right to put their name on it, which is completely unprecedented in Indian judicial history. Then you say, has the executive been placed on the kind of pedestal as it was during Indira Gandhi's era? Tell me this, who is now appointing the chief election commissioner? Earlier it was a committee, election commissioners. Earlier it was a committee of the leader of opposition, the Chief Justice of India and the Prime Minister of India. Now they have put in 2 members of the executive, the Prime Minister and one of his nominee ministers. So executive is, yes, being put back on the pedestal. Then lastly, you talk about, there are opposition governments ruling the country right now. Well, even during emergency, you did have an opposition government, non-Congress government in Tamil Nadu, in Gujarat, in Odisha. So let's not try to, just paint out the Indira Gandhi's emergency as it was so very wrong and this government is not doing anything wrong. Both, they were doing wrong. The Congress under Indira Gandhi was doing wrong and the BJP under Modi is doing wrong. Let's put the facts as they are.
Okay. Shahzad Punana, why don't you respond? I have so many interjections, but I'll leave it to you.
First of all, let me begin this debate by paying tribute to all the Samvidhan Sehnanis, likes of Mulayam Singh Yadav ji, Lalu Prasad Yadav, who named his daughter Misa, JP, of course, Vajpayee ji, Advani ji, so many of them. Now let me come to point number 1. 50 years ago this issue happened, why remember now? But 47 independence struggle we have to remember every day. That is good. 71 war, Indira went and broke Pakistan. That is what they kept saying in the last 1 week debate. You remember, Rahul? That is perfectly fine. That time we are not running away. Now Mr. Nikhil Jain says we have already apologized for it. We have said that we regret the emergency. But today Udit Raj has said that there were some good things that happened in emergency. Maybe 1.2 crore people getting sterilized, most of them Muslims and Dalits, were a good thing. Then you had Bhupesh Baghel who said that, look, Indira was very courageous because she had a declared emergency. So maybe it was courageous to bypass parliament, courageous to put the judiciary as committed judiciary. And at that time there was no collegium system and therefore the bypassing of Mr. H.R. Khanna was actually a crime. Today the transfer of judges is not done by Government of India. The appointment of judges is not done, or elimination is not done by Government of India. Having said that, Kishore Kumar's songs were also stopped. Sanjeev ji, what were you listening to in 1977? Anyway, let me come to the third point. He has said that we regret the emergency. But Rajiv Gandhi said, Mama did the right thing. He said this on July 18th, 1985. So did Mama do the right thing or was it a mistake? One categorical official stand of the Congress party should be there. Now today why am I raising this issue? Because Congress ki mindset, mansikta badli nahi hai. This was the biggest fixing they did with the democracy of our country. But what do they say? EC is fixed. When do they say EC is fixed? Only when they lose the Maharashtra and Haryana elections. Otherwise, Karnataka EC is not fixed. Himachal EC is not fixed. Jharkhand EC is not fixed. And just now, just before your debate, gentleman Rahul Shivshankar, the Bombay High Court has taken the petition of the Congress-sponsored PIL and thrown it into the dustbin after all the allegations they've made against the EC in Maharashtra election.
I was reading about
and
that.
last point, just last point, and I will ask, and you respect the constitution today, no sir? Show me why Tharoor, who kept Desh first, not Parivar first, has been sidelined and humiliated, where Muralidharan of the Congress has said this man is disgusting, we don't stand by his views. Secondly, please tell me, sir, you are for democracy in your party, right? So then in that case, please tell me that how come Omar Abdullah to the court is saying that don't question the election commission, but you are time and again raising the questions which nobody is taking a Nilambur bypoll. You have no question to ask. You're still undermining the institutions. And thirdly, Mr. Nikhil Jain, please show me the categorical letter of the Congress party where they have apologized for the atrocities of emergency. In fact, they have justified the atrocities of emergency.
Well, viewers, there are also other things problematic about Mr. Jain, where he makes an unsolicited attack on the media. If this was such a controlled setup, Mr. Jain wouldn't have been able to speak at all. He wouldn't have been invited in the first place if we were all shaking in our shoes. It is very, very.
Rahul, I did not make a comment about your particular show. I made a general statement
about talked about the media in my fraternity, sir.
By the way, the Congress boycotts this show.
And I talked about...
And that's why you're here.
The Congress does.
The Congress boycotts this show. That's why you are here.
They are the champions of free speech.
And Sanjay Jha says hi to us.
Only speech that freely embellishes their credentials. That is the speech that they are. In fact, I'm on an undeclared list, viewers. There's a silent ban against me. Not even a vocal one.
These days they target your family by putting out pictures.
Yeah, that is true. But it's not a declared one. It's an undeclared emergency on me. मैंने क्या किया भाई? समझ ही नहीं आती. But anyhow, chalo. I may have asked too many inconvenient questions. But okay, let's just open this up because it's an interesting conversation. I want to bring in Sanjeev ji. I want to bring in the good doctors. Both are exceptional. But let me first begin with Sanjeev Srivastava. Sanjeev Srivastava, look, you lived through some of those times. I was born that year, so I can't claim to have great insight. I only heard stories from my journalist relatives. One of them, of course, who fought a very, very crucial case on free speech, Ramesh Thapar, against the Union of India and won. He was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. That's a completely different matter. But the point is that he stood up for certain values which were being trampled underfoot by Nehru, the great liberal. So I just want to ask you this because I find it rather strange that the Congress has pulled this straw out of the hat of an undeclared emergency when the facts are not adding up. I mean, you have elections, turnouts are huge, governments are getting thrown out. Mr. Modi nearly lost his majority. In fact, the BJP did lose its majority. Let's be honest about it. Ending up 30 short. The NDA could have easily packed up and folded up. That was the power of a free and fair system. And that should have settled the debate. But we keep getting back to this. Do you think this is a redundant conversation being made by people who are finding it difficult to get people to agree with them?
Well, Rahul, I also wasn't around as a journalist during emergency, but one has read enough. In fact, my first
I wasn't trying to say that you're
early
ancient
80s
or anything. I'm just saying that. No. I'm just saying that you were
Indira Gandhi's. Yes. Of course, I was not born there.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Rahul, you're much younger.
Yeah.
Now, but see, few things should be very clear. One, there is nobody who can, with any right frame of mind, defend the emergency. It was a very dark chapter. It was the worst thing which could have happened. And now, as we know more and more details, it was as much against the opposition and JP movement and things like that, as much Indira Gandhi's effort to put her, keep her flock together. There were murmurs of dissent within her party. Some senior leaders were questioning her judgment and the possibility of her continuance after the Allahabad High Court judgment. So all of these things, it was extremely bad and it should never happen again. So having said that, now about this undeclared emergency, I also think this is also going a bit too far. I won't make a sweeping statement or won't even approve a sweeping statement like that. But there are concerns and big concerns about the state of affairs right now in the country, about different issues which Mr. Jain have raised or somebody else, I'm sure panelists Suman Sriraman will raise.
Now, what are these issues?
And the big concerns are, yes. So one big issue, let's start with our own fraternity. I'm sure, and you know, I have the greatest regard for you. And I particularly enjoy the way you put forward your point and the way you argue and the way, and the lovely language, flowery and very apt selection of words that you have, Rahul. But
thank you, sir.
The main thing is, because of the nature of the beast now, especially in television, because it is controlled by some of the biggest names in Indian corporate history, there is a way that you end up, yes, you call people who think otherwise in your shows, but I can really count on my fingertips shows done in the last few years where people actually question the government all the time. Most of the questions are now to the opposition. So it's the first time in my 40 years that one has seen in the last few years that the more and more questioning is done of the opposition rather than the government of the day. So that is what is a concerning feature. You know, I'm sure there is a lot of stuff wrong with Congress, and that is why they are sitting where they are in the opposition. But media's job is to keep questioning the government, not the opposition. So that's, I think, one basic issue. Then, yes, institutions were always, whether it was ED, CBI or Election Commission, they always used to largely function in the direction of the government. They were never truly independent except for the brief period of T.N. Session, who was appointed, like Congress suffered so many times. They had this Vinod Rai, CAG. You know, nobody bite back stronger the Congress hand than people appointed by them. So T.N. Session was one big relief and a great breath of fresh air, and EC became independent only in that period, I think. Rest of the time, I don't want to say much about the constitutional body. It does work on the instance of the government. So do institutions like CBI and ED. Only difference which has happened now is that they are more blatant, if you may. They are more in your face. Earlier there used to be some veneer that you want to keep things on the face of it very transparent. Now even that is not very much required. I won't like to comment much on judiciary because, like you rightly pointed out, Rahul, there have been many instances where the Supreme Court has come out very in a firm manner. Yeah. But one thing I would like to say, emergency was very bad, but it was for 20 months. Can you expect a judge like Jagmohan Sinha now, who can come out with a judgment against the sitting Prime Minister or that kind of an authority? Not for bribery, not for because Yashpal Kapoor's technical resignation was not accepted when he had left Delhi. He had resigned, but the formality of acceptance was not happened. And that's why a Prime Minister's election being set aside. I think that's impossible, unthinkable. What happened in 1975 is unthinkable in 2025. Yes,
you're
that
saying
kind
it's
of
more,
justice.
Whether
and last thing.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Rahul, I was saying that kind of a judgment which led to emergency is unthinkable in today's circumstances.
Okay.
And number two, we may criticize the emergency and rightfully, but to Indira Gandhi, one has to also give the devil her due. She lifted the emergency. She called for elections and lost it. Otherwise, we could have been living under emergency till kingdom come. So give the devil also her due, that she did something very nasty, wrong, undemocratic, But she,
The
for whatever
reason
reasons,
she-
maybe
the
she just
reason
misread
she
the
lifted
situation
it-
completely. Yes.
The reason she lifted
Because she
it
thought
was
she will
not
win.
very righteous. She thought that she was going to come back with a great majority.
No, no.
She'd
Yes,
set the
thumping
store,
majority, yeah.
and she
But-
thought she would, but that didn't
But
happen.
she
so
could
it
have
was a-
just continued.
But it was a cynical
But
reason.
she could have
She
just
was told by the
continued
IB
because-
and everybody, Madam, aap
cynical-
to ekdam,
agreed.
you're
Yes,
going to
agreed.
come back with a massive. So
Bilkul
she
sahi
said,
baat
chalo
hai.
bhai, then, you know, it's
I-
all going to fall
I-
into my lap, so may as well. So
I-
let's not imbue that decision with
I
a halo
100
of virtuosity. Okay, I understand
No,
that.
I'm not imbuing
No,
it
you're
with a
not.
halo. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
Okay,
But the
then
fact
that's
that she
it then.
lifted it must also be acknowledged.
No, but that can't be, you know, I mean, look, these are certain tenable decisions. Anyhow, let me, I don't want to speak tonight. I want to get Dr., if you don't
Yeah.
mind, I want to get Dr. Ranganathan in quickly,
Sure,
and then
sure,
we'll
yeah.
bring in
Please, please.
Dr. Suman C. Raman and also Shadat Punal.
I
yes,
don't want to curb the rights of Anand Ranganathan from speaking.
Yeah, aaj to mat karo bhai. Yes.
कांग्रेस तो है नहीं हम.
Aaj to free speech hai.
चलिए,
चलिए.
करिए.
Yeah.
No, good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening, Rahul. Look, I was prepared that I would spend 2.5 to 3 minutes allotted to me on the subject. But by the time my turn has come, I'm just itching to rebut a couple of points that my good friends Nikhil and Sanjeev have made because they're very important and they need to be rebutted. So please allow me 30 seconds extra. First, let me start with Nikhil. I mean, this is some undeclared emergency where a virulent, violent mob gets hold of a main arterial road of Delhi, stays put there for 6 months, costing the exchequer hundreds of crores, causing inconvenience to millions of commuters, just because they want that their right to prevent must supersede the right to protest. I'm talking of the Shaheen Bagh protest. Must be some undeclared emergency. It must be some undeclared emergency where the nation suffers 3,000 crore economic loss every single day for an entire year during the anti-farm law protests. It must be some undeclared emergency that the government was staying put and not doing anything. Is that right? And number two, for him to say that the election commission is compromised, let me remind him that for 60 years, especially most under the Congress, the chief election commissioner was nominated by the president, and we know who the president nominated. There was no leader of the opposition, there was no chief justice. So out here, yes, I agree. We should at least follow what L.K. Advani said. We should have leader of opposition and the chief justice. Right now, that's not there. But for him to say that the situation was better when you were under the Congress is preposterous. Now let me come to Sanjeev. Number one, he is right when he says that the role of the media is to question the government, but he is so wrong when he says that the role of the media is not to question the opposition. Of course it is. Because half the governments in the states are run by the opposition. And this is exactly what is happening. The journalists have become activists and stooges of those opposition parties that are in government in states. So as a result, all those claiming we are living under an emergency because there is no freedom of speech and expression, they were the same guys clamoring for the prosecution of Nupur Sharma for merely quoting Islamic scriptures. They were clamoring for the prosecution of YouTubers in Tamil Nadu who conduct interviews not liked by Stalin. All those people, including professors who forwarded cartoons not liked by Mamata. All those journalists reporting on stories not liked by Kejriwal in Punjab, all the Sheesh Mahal stories. All those activists who were arrested for their Facebook posts not liked by Pawar. So let's get this straight, please. You don't stand against unjust and draconian laws that stifle free speech. You stand against their application to your friends and ideological bedfellows. You don't mind the cloud of emergency when it suits you. In Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Punjab, Bengal. You don't mind your police force of your state to run around 1,000 miles chasing a poor teenager because she said something that offended you. This is the problem in this case. You want to talk about emergency, Rahul, sure talk about emergency, but talk about it objectively. Second, what Sanjeev said, in fact, allege that you bring people on the panel who rarely criticize the government. Well, as luck would have it, I have my dear brother Shahzad, and you know, the last 2 times we've been there on your show, we've literally fought with each other. He's even called me Pawan Kher. I don't know which is a better insult. But be that as it may, it is the role of people. If you want to be a panelist, then talk about objectively what is happening in this case. And you want to talk about objectively, let me give you the brutal truth. Yes, depending upon what you term as emergency. For me, it is application of draconian laws. It is there even today. So yes, you might say there is an undeclared emergency. But the point is every political party, every government, BJP, non-BJP is using it. You know why? Because those draconian laws were made by the Congress that was supposed to uphold freedom of speech and expression, uphold freedom rights, uphold all the human rights, did not. The problem is every government realizes that they can use those draconian laws to their advantage and they continue to use it.
Yes.
Now, Nikhil might say, look at the undeclared emergency. You have the CBI, ED, arresting opposition leaders. Did it not happen during the Congress? Of course it did. The problem is everything that happened during the Congress is happening even now. Just that some people with their vested interests are being selective about it.
Okay, selective. Yes,
Let
very
me
quickly
just
before
add
I bring in
very
Doctor.
quickly. First of all, both
Suman
Nikhil ji and Srivastava ji said that emergency was very, very bad. Yet Sanjay Raut today has said it was a constitutional emergency. Why are you in alliance with them? Secondly, please tell, I'm asking about Nikhil ji. Secondly, they said undeclared emergencies on. Let me give you one concrete example. Rajnath ji had done nothing during the emergency. He was in jail. He was not allowed to visit his dead mother's funeral.
True.
And today Rahul Gandhi has said all kinds of things, including I'm fighting Indian state. Has a case been filed against him? In fact, Rahul, I think there are 1 or 2 cases against you by which government?
Yeah, the Karnataka government. Thank goodness
Telangana
the High
Chief Minister
Court,
has said, I will strip people naked and I will beat them up, and arrested a journalist for questioning on Kisan. That Anand forgot, even though he took 30 seconds extra. But having said that, now let me come to judiciary and EC point. Please, it's very important because Sanjeev Srivastava quoted Anand. Whom did he quote? TN Session. Anand, which party did TN Session fight an election from? And Mr. M.S. Gill was a minister by the Congress party. And you are right, from 1950 to 90, it was not multi-member ECI, it was single-member ECI, appointed by PMO. That time it was Sundarta Ka Sangeet.
And in a different channel.
And today, just let me just complete this point. In 2023, we have a law to appoint the ECI, which also has the LOP. In states, the SEC, the State Election Commissioner, is appointed only by the Chief Minister.
The question that you can ask is, have we gone far enough in giving full autonomy? That's a valid question. But to say that, things were better, this, that, the other, anyhow. Dr. Suman Raman, let me ask you this. Can you help me a little bit, and further this debate with hard facts, because that's the name of the show, and I've given you certain facts. I would like some counterfactuals, if you could put down. 6 draconian laws passed by the Modi government that are a departure from the past, not an extension, a complete departure, which have curbed civil rights in this country. Just give me 6.
No. Rahul, let us be very clear. There is nothing to defend as far as the emergency is concerned. The point being that Mrs. Gandhi, in 1978, said that it was a mistake. And she said it in Yavatmal in 1978 and accepted full responsibility for all that went wrong there. So that is point number 1. Which has not happened with many of the other things. Congress also apologized for what happened in the Sikh, riots which happened following the assassination of Mrs. Gandhi. Now, my point is very clear. I think Sanjeev put it very nicely when he said, look, in the past, Congress governments misused agencies routinely. What has changed now? There are no red lines. Things have become far more brazen. Things have become far more in your face, and that is really the problem. And the most important reason, accountability, a term which used to have at least some, nominal kind of value in India in the good old days. Not that everybody was held accountable even earlier, but even that minuscule level of accountability has now vanished in governance. I'll give you an example. You take Congress ministers in the previous UPA government. How many of them resigned before charge sheets were filed? Ashwini Kumar resigned because of a conversation which he should not have had. I mean, those things are unthinkable. To think that those happened hardly 10, 12, 13 years ago is unthinkable now. None of that would happen today. And I think that what has happened is, whether it is in the executive, whether it is in the media, whether it is in the judiciary, things have just gotten more brazen because nobody is accountable, and whatever be the case, there is this feeling that you can get away.
Okay, but Dr. Raman,
and I think that is the defining feature. No, one minute, Rahul. Let me just finish. Everybody had 3-4 minutes. Just 2 more sentences.
Yeah.
Look, there are cases. Nobody expects a Lal Bahadur Shastri today, where there is one train accident and immediately the man decides to resign. But when consecutively there are charges made against the various, various of incompetence, of failure to perform, nothing happens. Another very important, why should the media, face a threat from the government? The media is busy, singing the praises of the government. Why should the media have a problem now? To say, for you started by saying that, is there any problem for the media? How can there be a problem for the media? Media is an extended arm of the government now.
Okay,
so there is no question of.
Okay, so 1 second.
It is like a public relations agency.
Okay, now this is getting close to the bone. So let me just very quickly set two things down. You see, you focused on accountability. That is a moral question. That has got nothing to do with declaring any sort of a emergency, undeclared or so. That's a moral question. That's moral equivalence. That's prevarication. Yes. There is very little accountability today, but that's got nothing to do with repressing. No, 1 second, sir.
That the government,
please,
government has red light.
No, 1 second.
This government does not seem to have any.
Then see, that is a totally different question. We can argue about accountability. It's got nothing to do with curtailing anyone else's rights. Please, let's not confuse issues. This is a clever attempt. I only asked you a simple question. Name me 6 laws that have been brought by the Modi government that build on the past, the draconian laws of the past, which take them forward. See, we can be subjective. We can say, yes, the media doesn't ask questions. Yes, these are all subjective assumptions. These are not
it's
hard
not subjective.
Facts. No, I mean, give me data. Give me data. Give me data. I'll tell you.
I'll ask you the same question.
The data, for example, during the emergency was that there was a 1:8 ratio. Under the emergency, for every 8 mentions of a government spokesperson, there was 1. Even that was not there, but even 1 at the most of an opposition spokesperson. That tells you that the entire landscape was skewed. I want data. There is enough data you can give me.
It will be 8 of the opposition and only 1 of the government.
Sir, please.
Because basically we are asking only questions to the opposition.
Some points on facts?
Please.
Sorry, Anand,
you see, again,
just 20-30 seconds.
It's very difficult to argue when people are just talking in subjective
terms. But Mr. Raman, if you will indulge us, because it's you said Indira ji apologized in 1978. Yet Rajiv Gandhi said in 1985 that mother was right. So was Rajiv wrong? Point 1. Congress should answer. Secondly, he said, please, sir, you said everything has become more brazen. Anand Ranganathan will tell you, if he gets the 30 seconds from me, that Baharul Islam was once upon a time a judge, then became MP, and then went on to become judge. Great! What a culture! This is great. Accountability. Yes, sir. We don't do corruption, so we won't resign for corruption. But who was running the government? NAC. What was accountability of NAC, Rahul ji? What was accountability of those journalists who were appointing the ministers? हाँ, इसको ये मंत्रालय देना, उसको वो मंत्रालय देना. And what was accountability of that 55-year-old immature person tearing the ordinance of the Prime Minister? With what authority he was tearing it? That was accountability. And accountability you've seen now. The man-made stampede that has taken place in Karnataka. What accountability, sir, Siddaramaiah? What accountability is accused number 1 in Muda scams case? So let us get into
One second. Look, I need to.
What happened to the stampede at the Kumbh Mela?
1 second.
For that?
Just 1 second, please. Viewers, it's not about accountability. Accountability is a moral question. We are talking about subversion of the Constitution.
And I have to counter this question on Rajiv Gandhi.
Show me where.
Rajiv Gandhi said a lot of things went wrong during the emergency. The government lost.
You want me to read what Rajiv Gandhi said?
Look, the point is, we are not sitting for an IS exam, and he is not Dr. Khan sitting here giving the facts here for people to brush up on their general knowledge. Doctor, very quickly, I want to move on now.
Rajiv said, I don't hesitate to walk on my mother's footsteps and impose emergency again. That's what Rajiv said.
It's quite there.
And what did he say after that? What did he say after that? The whole thing. You're quoting one sentence.
Okay, please, Doctor.
He very clearly said that
I think Dr. Raman has proven my point. Because if you remember, one of the points that I made was that people forget that the opposition is also running a lot of state governments. And people conveniently forget that the population of those states is more than the population of many large nations. So they will never criticize, for example, the Mahavikas Aghadi for not being held accountable. They will never criticize the opposition in Uttar Pradesh that has more than the population of Brazil, where Samajwadi Party is not.
In fact,
they
sir,
will always give the, and one last point.
Sorry.
You see, about accountability, Shehzad is right. It has gone the other way. Because of social media, because of accountability, now people are less brazen. They are brazen, but they are less brazen than they were before.
Okay,
but
that's
can
right.
you tell me, there's one last question, 10 seconds, because Shehzad keeps taking my point, so just 10 points, just 10 seconds. So Congress actually overturned more than 4 Supreme Court judgments, the most famous one being Shah Banu. Can Dr. Sumant Raman give me one instance of Narendra Modi overturning a Supreme Court judgment in 11 years? One instance.
Okay, so
There has hardly been any
let's just
requirement for
no,
that.
please.
I will-
No,
I
there
will
is,
give
there
you
is.
five.
Come on, sir.
Dr.
There is.
Raghunath, I will give
No,
you
1
five.
second, Mr. Jain. 1 second, please. Everybody, now just I need to move on because this is an attended subject and all people will enjoy it. All people will enjoy it because it perfectly captures the problem here, viewers. And that problem is deflection. Now, it's a supreme irony that as the Congress party accuses the NDA of imposing an undeclared emergency on a day when India is marking the 50th anniversary of the emergency, it is facing questions about the freedom for dissent in its own ranks. And the questions are being asked because of the snide, barely disguised ultimatums being issued to the party's senior leader, Shashi Tharoor. The intimidation is coming from the very top, from the mouths of the Gandhi family's ultra-loyalists. Mallikarjun Kharge, Congress president appointed, actually selected by Sonia Gandhi, says, I don't know how to read English. He, that is Tharoor, has very good command over English, hence we made him CWC member. For us, nation first, but some say Modi first and nation second. What can we do? So he's trying to suggest that Tharoor is some sort of a card-carrying member of the PMO in the Congress party, is a flunky of the Prime Minister, is a Trojan horse. That is what is being, viewers, said about a party colleague who is very senior and who wanted to actually stand for a fair election for the post of president but was not allowed to do so. Not allowed, viewers. Kesu Venugopal, Congress General Secretary, handpicked by Rahul Gandhi, and he comes out and says there is freedom of speech in Congress and anyone can have differing views. However, the party will be forced to take action against anyone who crosses the Lakshman Rekha, unquote. If you have freedom, then where is the Lakshman Rekha, viewers? Either you have a Lakshman Rekha or you have freedom. You can't have both. So Tharoor has not let the antagonist get under his skin, which speaks volumes about his maturity, but he has allowed himself the liberty to post an enigmatic message on X. And he says, don't ask permission to fly. That's his message. The wings are yours and the sky belongs to no one, unquote. Is Tharoor feeling stifled enough to take wing because of a culture that brooks no reasoned appreciation of anyone else's qualities or viewers of their views or achievements other than the Gandhi family? We, of course, can only guess, but there's no doubt that the Congress leaders who've taken potshots at Tharoor are alluding to his newspaper op-ed from earlier this week. And what did Shashi Tharoor say? Modi's energy, dynamism and willingness to engage remained a prime asset for India on the international stage and that it deserved greater backing. This has got the Congress in a tizzy, and they have, at least the Gandhis, I think, viewers, and they've set their very, very close supporters, their coterie after Tharoor. And they are going out there and humiliating him. How do you read this? This is the fundamental question, Mr. Jain. You talk about undeclared emergency. There seems to be an undeclared emergency within the Congress. G23 leaders, Sanjay Jha, who comes every day, who defends the party, poor fellow, is still suspended by one remark he made. That thin hair, he's suspended by that. Now, what hair... What? Yes.
Rahul, let me respond
now
to
tell me, sir. Tharoor has put out a message that he's basically growing his wings and he wants to flap away from your party because he's done with it. You can't grow in your party. You can't aspire to have a view which is not rubber stamped by Rahul Gandhi in your party. You have a problem. It's a big problem. And don't do whataboutery, answer it.
I will not do whataboutery. I'll come to the point that Dr. Tharoor is a Congress member of parliament. He's somebody who's been given a ticket to contest the Lok Sabha elections by the Congress party 4 times, and he's won that. He's won that fabulously. Kudos to him, credit to him. But he is a member of the Congress party as much as the BJP would not like him to be. Secondly, you said that Mallikarjun Kharge was selected as the president and not elected. You're forgetting that a proper election with an election commissioner was held in the Congress party. 9,000 delegates
Election
voted.
commission,
8,000
hang on,
voted.
election commissioner appointed by whom?
By the Congress president at the time. What else do you want? Do you want the BJP to appoint election commissioner?
There you
no,
go.
No, no, Would you
Viewers,
ask? Oh,
this is a
hold on,
criticism.
hold on.
The government doesn't appoint an independent
There you go.
election commissioner, they
Please
say,
tell me-
and they
please tell
themselves
me- please-
appointed, that the president chooses
hold on.
an election commissioner against
Please
his
tell
own
me how was
election
JP
or her
Nadda
own
appointed?
election.
Rahul. Please tell me how was JP Nadda appointed in the BJP? Were they, forget an election commissioner, was there an election?
Sir,
और
do you
was it
know-
मोदी जी ने पर्ची निकाली मटके
Sir-
में से और नड्डा साहब बन गए? नड्डा साहब ना
do
बनते
you-
तो शायद वसुंधरा राजे सिंधिया बन जाती
do you
या
know-
शिवराज सिंह चौहान. Nobody even knows the
That-
process.
Okay.
And let me also talk about the fact that Dr. Tharoor did contest the election. The Congress president and the Gandhi family at the time made it clear that we are not supporting any candidate. Dr. Tharoor got over 1,000 votes. You talk about a Lakshman Rekha and freedom can coexist. That's about the fact of a reasonable restriction. You talk about G23. Dr. Tharoor, yes, was a member of that, but even Bhupinder Singh Hooda was a member. He's being made the leader of opposition
Mr.
in
Sibbal
Haryana. He
was,
the one.
Mr. Sibbal was,
Haryana.
which party is he in?
And Mr. Sibbal has left politics. He's
Why?
left party
No,
politics.
what do you mean he left politics? He's not. He's
in
actually
Rajya Sabha.
he's a
Party
Rajya
politics.
Sabha on another
He's
political
left-
party's
no,
ticket. Do you
He's
know which
left
one? Should I
party-
tell you?
He's left party
Arre,
politics.
Arre,
He's
what are
left
you
party
saying,
politics.
sir?
He's not a
Please.
member of any political
Arre,
party.
come on.
Rahul is not a member of any
kid
political
ourselves.
party. It is
Anyhow,
for his.
okay. I don't want to. I don't want to join
it is
issue
for
on
him
other
to make
people
a
who are
choice.
not here. Yes,
And
okay, I
lastly-
believe you. Yes, I believe. You can see. Now, your viewers, this is the problem. This is the fundamental problem. I asked a simple question: who chose the ombudsman for the election? Said
There
Madam
was
Sonia
an
Gandhi.
election. Did it happen in BJP?
And Madam Sonia Gandhi. Again, what about forget the BJP? Why are you
What
obsessed
about
with the
it?
BJP? I'm
Achha,
talking about your
achha,
own party,
oh,
sir.
okay, Rahul.
Forget the
Let's be
BJP.
fair,
The
let's be
BJP
fair.
is bad.
Let's be
It's been
fair.
elected by
I
a
agree
bunch of
with you.
morons who have decided that they will put their faith in Prime Minister Modi. You don't respect the electorate, that's your
All right.
problem. But the people
Who do
have
you
elected
expect
it.
the-
Now don't
who-
go on
who do you
obsessing
expect-
about the BJP. Talk about your party. Talk
Who
about
do you
your party.
expect-
Talk
who
about
do
the
you
other big
expect
party
in-
that you're allied with, the AAP.
Who
Talk
do
about
you
the fact
expect
that,
in the Congress-
sir,
who
in
do
your
you
party,
expect in
in
the
your
Congress
party,
party to choose the
in your
ombudsman?
party, a person has
Who
lost
do you
50
expect in
elections,
the
50,
Congress?
and he still remains. One second, sir. He still remains your number
Rahul,
one
breaking
party
news.
campaigner. Number two, a person waltzes in and contests an election who has suddenly decided to join politics, gets a ticket over many aspiring people, and why not? What kind of a party is
And
this?
she won.
Anyhow,
And
yes.
she won.
Now, if Nikhil, if you may indulge me, because
Rahul, breaking news.
Nikhil ji, I've heard you out patiently. First of all, I believe Tharoor ji has done triple strike. First is that he put nation above Parivar, strike number one, especially in this entire multi-party delegation. Secondly, he exposed Pakistan. And thirdly, he challenged the coronation of Khadge ji. And you know, when Nikhil sits here with a straight face, I am the product of the Congress democracy. Rahul, had it not been for your show and the first time I was kicked out of the Congress for actually challenging the coronation.
Can I remind you, sir?
Yes.
There was a telephone conversation you had
With Manish
a
Tiwari.
very serious
With Manish Tiwari.
With Manish Tiwari. And what did that conversation
Manish
tell us?
Tiwari is on record, which he continues to say that the Congress is nothing but a sole person proprietorship, sole family proprietorship. His words, not mine. Secondly, let me tell you about the last two elections of Congress. The election last contested, so-called, was by Shashi Tharoor. He said that there were doubts about the system. The before that election that so-called took place was Jitendra Prasad's father. He also said that the election was not held fairly. By the way, in the 45 years of BJP's existence from 1980 to 2025, we have had more than 12 presidents, and the Congress's one family has controlled 35 years of that presidency in Congress party. So I don't need lectures about that. But yes, I just want one question of Nikhil. Nikhil, why is Sanjay Jha's suspension not been revoked if all he did, and there's so much democracy in your party, is to criticize the party in a paper article, newspaper article? Just answer this.
Why should I?
Why should I?
We're talking about Dr. Tharoor.
Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in, and Dr. Raman. Yes, Dr. Ranganathan.
No, there is breaking news. I don't know if you've heard it. Dr. Shashi Tharoor has just released a statement, and I read it verbatim. In a tempestuous machinations, I, a stalwart sentinel of ideological rectitude, find myself ensnared by the egregious perfidy of my erstwhile confederates. whose dastardly decree has cast me into the ignominious abyss of political ostracism. With hearts obdurate and minds obfuscated by the meretricious allure of transient power, they have, with unconscionable alacrity, abrogated the sacrosanct covenant of our collective ethos, wielding the scythe of betrayal to sever the tendrils of my unyielding devotion. Oh, how their decision, a veritable palimpsest of mendacity and caprice, doth presage the cataclysmic dissolution of our once august fraternity, leaving me to languish in the penumbral desolation of their perfunctory condemnation. I hereby join the BJP.
Strongly put. In the words of a famous man, strongly put. Very strong.
Rationalizing the position, which is already there.
Dr. Raman.
Very strong, very strong.
Dr. Raman.
Rahul, Shashi Tharoor, now the Kerala elections are coming up. Perhaps he wants a larger role for himself. He felt that offended that he was not asked to campaign in the party. Won Nilambur, wresting the Nilambur assembly seat from the CPM just a couple of days ago. So, look, the point is, Mr. Tharoor is an intellectual and he is not a mass leader. Now, what
Dr. Raman, he's won 4 elections.
And lost none.
He's won
Rahul
4
has
elections.
lost one.
Venugopal, Jairam Ramesh, are they mass leaders that they stand in judgment of Mr. Tharoor?
They are not.
Then
Priyanka
Udit Raj.
Gandhi is a mass leader.
No, 1 second. Mr. K.C. Venugopal has been winning his seat again for a very long time, but that is not the point. Neither is he a mass leader. The point really is that, Rahul, Mr. Tharoor needs to make it very clear. He says, I have other options. I may decide to do other things, but the point is he's not doing it. And the Congress is not, basically I think the Congress is waiting for him to leave on his own. That's not happening. So the point is you are staying inside a party knowing that that you don't want to sort of continue. At the same time, you are waiting to be expelled from the party.
What has he done exactly? That's the question.
But you know,
what is his offense?
Anand, before you take offense, let me take 20 seconds of offense because I was in that party once upon a time. You know, it is so frustrating that a person like Sumansi Raman will say that Tharoor has ambitions. So you can lose 99 elections and Rahul Gandhi can have ambitions. And Rahul Gandhi loses an election in Amethi, is a mass leader. But the man who has won Tiruvananthapuram 4 times is not a mass leader, and him having ambitions is very wrong. This is the patronizing attitude. This is the patronizing attitude.
Rahul Gandhi has won once in Wayanad, once in Raebareli, and 3 times in Amethi. What are you talking
winning
about?
elections is because of Rahul Gandhi.
He's the mass leader of Italy and Pakistan. That's the problem.
One second.
We need him to be mass leader of India. He's leading the mass somewhere else.
Nothing prevents the Congress party from promoting Mr. Rahul
I meant
Gandhi
mass of people. Before it's misunderstood. You're leading a mass of people somewhere else.
No. That's a snide remark. Okay,
it's not a snide remark.
It's not a snide
remark. Nothing prevents anybody from the Congress from joining together, forming a large group.
No, but one second. Let's just come back. I understand all of that. Dr. Ranganathan, yes, he wants to ask you a question.
This is what is very egregious. Tell me one statement of Shashi Tharoor that is anti-Congress. Why does Dr. Sumant Raman keep saying, look, he wants to join some... Tell me one thing that he said against Congress. Just because he's praised the Prime Minister once means that he said something against Congress. That is the problem. This is on the day of emergency. Dr. Sumant Raman has let it out.
So let me ask that question. Is Tharoor's honesty, Dr. Raman, is Tharoor's honesty Congress's insecurity? Simple question.
Tharoor has suddenly become a darling of the BJP is amazing.
No, he's not a darling.
BJP is not giving him a ticket.
He's not a darling.
I remember that the very same people were saying awful things about Shashi Tharoor, especially
don't go shifting the... Do you read so much of social media? Forget social media, sir.
Rahul, I remember I was one of those...
Okay, show me one statement from Mr. Amit Shah, who basically is the Chanakya of the party that praises Mr. Tharoor. One statement.
No, it's not about that.
No, then what is it about? Which right wing is suddenly, which BJP is suddenly becoming enamored by? Show me the statement from any Congress. No, 1 second. Show me a statement that criticizes the Congress and any BJP statement that welcomes Tharoor and says that we love you, Tharoor. We want you with us. We want you to put 3
Then why are we having
Starts.
the debate?
No, that's not the question. The
Because you haven't understood why we are having a debate. आपको समझ नहीं आई?
One second, Rahul. Just a 20 seconds
Because
intervention.
sir, we are calling out the hypocrisy of the
One
Congress.
second,
Why do you want me
20-second
to say
intervention.
this? Yes.
20-second intervention.
Mr.
Mr. Raman, please 20 seconds. Just indulge me for 20 seconds. Actually, the way of looking at it is wrong. The fact is that Tharoor has always criticized BJP. He won 4 elections against us. And if we are still willing to accept him for whatever he does right, it shows we are tolerant. But he's won 4 elections for you. And you made him persona non grata because he kept India first. It's a reflection on you, not on us. Do you understand the equation here? You made a person non grata simply because he put India first. And you are saying that we are so tolerant that despite him criticizing us day in and day out, we have been able to see whatever is good in his points of view. So who's tolerant? Thank you.
Nikhil Jain.
You have no problem.
I don't
with
really
seeing
get
good of
how
people
Shehzad
once they join
Poonawala
BJP,
thinks
sir,
that
including those whom you have
Dr.
accused
Tharoor
of
is a persona
corruption.
non grata
You have
in the
no
Congress party. He is a member
Have
of
you
the
heard
CWP for the longest
Khadge?
time.
Have you heard Muralidharan?
Let me read out.
So,
Let me read out what they've said.
It is right now.
For us, nation first. But for some, Modi first and nation second. What can we do? So viewers, this is the nub of the problem. The Congress is chafing at the fact that Mr. Tharoor has been honest enough to accept 2 things. And he said it on 2 different occasions. One, that the Prime Minister does carry certain credibility amongst the masses. So he is doing better. He's a more dynamic leader in the international stage also. That's the one thing he has said. Yes. And secondly, he has said, and I'll just quote him, that he deserves to be praised because he's a prime asset for India on the international stage. He's not saying he's a prime asset for Indian democracy or anything like that. But
Rahul, is he?
But that's a different matter. You argue that with Dr. Tharoor. No, mere se kyun argue kar rahe ho, sir? Why? I haven't said it. I mean, it's Dr. Tharoor who said it.
That is the whole point. That is the whole point, that you have Congress leaders disagreeing with Dr. Tharoor in the Congress, and we are debating as if he's
they're
going
not
to join the
disagreeing with
BJP.
him. They're threatening him. They're intimidating him. They're saying, they're intimidating him. This is what they're saying. There is freedom of speech in the Congress, and anyone can have differing views. However, the party will be forced to take action against anyone who crosses the Lakshman Rekha. Where is the Lakshman Rekha? What is the Lakshman Rekha? In this case, is a Congress leader praising Mr. Modi crossing the Lakshman Rekha? Can someone explain it to me? If it is,
No, Rahul,
then fair enough.
There's another quote. Let me make this quote. One second, sir. Since you don't know the facts, just 1 second. Congress's Muralidharan says Tharoor's praise is quite disgusting.
Disgusting.
Why?
So there's a problem.
In a democracy, we praise each other. Vajpayee ji had praised Indira, although he didn't call her Durga. He had praised her, so
yes,
big
he
deal.
didn't get kicked out of any political party.
No, we celebrated.
And there are many others who have celebrated. Hello, sir? This is the issue.
He's still in the party. He's still in the party.
Sir, so you keep a person, I'll tell you, you keep a person in a party, you continuously run them down, you threaten them, you intimidate them from public platforms.
He's a member of
you
parliament.
don't explain. That doesn't matter, sir. He can still be a member of parliament if you kick him out of your party. It doesn't make a difference. What are you saying?
He got a Congress ticket. He fought on a Congress ticket.
So it doesn't matter. If you kick him out, he can still remain. He was elected by the people, not by Sonia Gandhi.
Rahul, you asked, just because you asked Lakshman Rekha.
Yeah.
This is the Lakshman Rekha.
Which one is
it? Congress sacked its own leader because they called Rahul Gandhi a pappu.
For stating a fact.
Oh.
For stating truth.
Is that what happened?
Much.
Look, viewers, I'll leave it at this. The last words have been spoken by a headline. I'll leave it at this, viewers. The Congress, its hypocrisy is now writ large. I'll leave it for you to process this. Thank you.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
SpaceX and ISRO marks a significant milestone for India's presence in space exploration. If successful, Shubhanshu will become the second Indian to reach the orbit after Rakesh Sharma in 1984 and the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. NASA shared the latest update on the mission confirming the revised schedule. And according to NASA's official statement, Axiom Mission 4 is now scheduled to launch at 12:01 p.m. today as per the Indian Standard Time. Originally set to launch on May 29th, the mission faced multiple delays due to technical repairs on the spacecraft and the launch pad, as well as unfavorable weather conditions. Now, the most recent delays pushed the mission to June 8th, then June 11th, and finally, the new date was revised to the 22nd of June. So finally today, 25th of June is when it finally happens. Shubhanshu Shukla on board Axiom Mission 4 is going to head to International Space Station after Rakesh Sharma. He's only the second Indian to be doing that, and the first to visit the ISS. So that becomes rather important. We've already been speaking to his family members. They are quite elated with this historic feat that Shubhanshu is about to achieve. My colleague Shrishti has been following all of those details, also speaking to the family members of Shubhanshu Shukla. Shrishti, an important day today. After much delays, finally, fingers crossed, that mission takes off today.
Yes, definitely. Good morning. The countdown has begun, and as of now, everything looks good. The weather conditions are also like 90% favorable. So we really hope that the mission really takes off at around 12 noon. The 4 astronauts have been in quarantine for almost 3 weeks now, so they are ready. They bid their goodbye, and within the next 2 to 3 hours, the mission is going to take off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Remember, this marks the second space flight for India and the first ever to the International Space Station. ISRO has collaborated with Axiom Space for this mission, and it's a high-stake mission because the Indian Air Force pilot, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, is going to the space for the very first time. And remember, he's one of the astronauts who's also being trained for India's first ever, human spaceflight Gaganyatri, which is scheduled to take off in the year 2027.
Also, Shrishi, I was mentioning about how you'd spoken to the family members of Shubhanshu Shukla. Of course, they were talking about, what his mannerisms have been ever since that news has come out and how he has responded to it, and the fact that he is dealing with his absence away from the family, but he's really elated and excited about going to the International Space Station. So what have they really mentioned about this historic achievement of Shubhanshu's?
Definitely, Griya. So the family has been really waiting. We spoke to Group Captain Shukla's parents and his elder sister Shuchi, and they all talked about how he has been really patient and how he's somebody who maintains his calm and is very is able to navigate the challenges that he has in life. And see, Shukla, he's a test pilot. He's a trained test pilot with the Indian Air Force, So he's trained to navigate these challenges. He has flown so many aircrafts before. So this is the first time he's flying a spacecraft. But he has this really calm demeanor, which helps him, which makes him a really good candidate for a mission like this, which is a high-stakes mission. And the family, definitely, they are slightly anxious, but they are so confident because of his abilities that he will, he'll be one of the, he'll make history for India, and this mission is going to be very successful. They were also telling us about how, even when they are tense, it's, Group Captain Shukla who tends to, kind of assure them that everything is going to be all right. And so they're very confident. They seemed very happy the last time I spoke to them. And I think all through the day they're going to be at their house praying. And there'll be a lot of family members there gathered to, to watch this mission live. And the mission will also be live streamed. The live stream would begin 2 hours before that. So yeah, eagerly waiting for this mission to take off.
Right, Rishi, thank you so much for all of those details. So 12:01 p.m. Indian Standard Time is when history will be made, and all eyes will be on that mission to the International Space Station.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
SpaceX and ISRO marks a significant milestone for India's presence in space exploration. If successful, Shubhanshu will become the second Indian to reach the orbit after Rakesh Sharma in 1984 and the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. NASA shared the latest update on the mission confirming the revised schedule. And according to NASA's official statement, Axiom Mission 4 is now scheduled to launch at 12:01 p.m. today as per the Indian Standard Time. Originally set to launch on May 29th, the mission faced multiple delays due to technical repairs on the spacecraft and the launch pad, as well as unfavorable weather conditions. Now, the most recent delays pushed the mission to June 8th, then June 11th, and finally, the new date was revised to the 22nd of June. So finally today, 25th of June is when it finally happens. Shubhanshu Shukla on board Axiom Mission 4 is going to head to International Space Station after Rakesh Sharma. He's only the second Indian to be doing that, and the first to visit the ISS. So that becomes...
Hello and welcome to Vantage. I'm Alison Lagrange. Let's get started. The Iran-Israel war may be over, but the aftermath is still being debated. Did the US strike obliterate Iran's nuclear program, as Donald Trump claims, or was the damage limited? A preliminary US assessment has been leaked, and it contradicts what the US president said. Iran's nuclear program has been set back, but by months, not years. What does this mean for America's strategic calculations? Was the US strike